back. West. Salute to everybody in the Damu Kiwe conversations. We appreciate y'all attendance. Hit that like button on your way in. Once again, Stu Sims the dime, Deuce the brain. But check this out. We got the content. Well, not exactly. Right now, they hating again. They ain't let Scandalous monetize the video. So he's trying to get the video released and monetized. This is going to go viral. So I hope y'all appreciate the efforts that Scandalous is putting up to get this to y'all, man. Hopefully we get a call. But if not, we got the content anyway. Welcome to the Damu Kiwe Conversations. Salute to everybody in the chat. Salute to everybody on YouTube, Twitch, Insta. Hold on, let me put the if you on IG, go ahead to YouTube or go to Twitch at Active Chucks, and I'm gonna pin that for y'all on IG. If you're on Facebook or any other platform, man, salute to you. Thank you for coming to support the Damu Kiwe Conversations. The least you can do is wipe your chucks off at the front door, right on that mattress that says welcome. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. Gets the peoples up in here. You know what I'm saying? Beautiful black lady. Salute. Let's go. Pinky Mac, what up? Muddy Waters, I voted already. Deuce, chat, salute Carolina Bird. I don't believe he should only because of due process. However, it ain't looking good for him, and if it don't look good for him, it's not going to be good. Whack 100, a bad snitchiation. Carolina Bird, beautiful black lady, Muddy, salute. What up? Kid the Barber, what up? Salute. Lacing up these Chuck Taylors going to get active tonight. Hey, Renegade Duchess, listen. I'm telling you, this is the Damu Kiwe Conversation podcast, and it could get really, really crazy today. In fact, I'm expecting it to. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot going on, but let's get back to it. You got Watch Baby for Life. What's up, Duke Sims? Black Power and y'all Black Power Tycoon stand on business, educate. Mind of thinking to how are you, King? What good vibration in your soul? Hey man, listen, man. Whatever you put out into this universe is what you're gonna reciprocate. You know what I'm saying? So King Kong the Great, you know what I'm saying? Okay, they cutting up in Kid the Barber shit. He listening though. Be back when he done. So we got him up in the we on the big screen in the barbershop right now. Hey, salute to my nigga Kids the Barber, man. Always tapping in. Edward Bell, everybody hit that like button on your way in. Let your friends know we in here. Y'all know we shadow band. So, Edward Bell, much love and respect. West, salute to y'all, homies. Free the big OGU from the 318 Sweet Port, Louisiana. Yeah, and free big U, man. K-Boy TV, salute to the live. What up, though? Slime Ball TV. With your looking ass. You know what I'm saying? Looking ass. Salute to Slime Ball TV, man. Thanks for the support, King. Spirit Wonder, West. Shout out to Damu Kiwe Conversations and to the chat. You know what I'm saying? Muddy Waters, hit that like button. Raider Q. Salute to Raider Q, man. That's a good brother right there. But Raider Q, I'm going to keep it 100, man. We need to change your first name. I'm sure it doesn't do you justice. The type of person you is, and the way you attach the Raiders to it. We just gonna call you cute. Cause we know you got some winner in you. And the Raiders ain't known for winning. Let's go. G-Mac, 2-1. Damu Kiwe Conversations is back at it again with the realest content for show. Active Chucks, Red Heart, or Blue Heart. You know what I'm saying? Chucks is clean. Exposing the Script podcast. Hey, Exposing the Script podcast. Salute to you, man. You know what I'm saying? If you're looking for the content, you came to the right place. Cali Dre, 619. See, a lot of niggas don't know. Big Charles, Norman died. Lil Doodles, what's up, champ? Twist by Meek, salute. So, yeah, hit that like button. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get into this as soon as everybody get up in here. If you on IG, hit that Active Chucks on Twitch. And I spelled Twitch wrong. It's supposed to have a T in it. Typo, man. Please don't judge me. You know what I'm saying? I can read pretty good. You know what I'm saying? We will see this season. Oh, we going to see this. Hey, listen, man. You know that AFC West traditionally just goes to Chiefs Kingdom, brother. And I know you might be oppressed of such a situation. We the standard. Hey, Muddy Water, salute. I know the business content always on fire. Exactly. Hey, Mike B, what up, man? Mike B slept through the whole last live, man. Mike B slept through the whole last live, bro. I couldn't believe it. Mike B usually up on top, but I knew we was shadow banned, so I said, you can't blame him. It's hard on the yard right now. The yard is on lockdown. You know what I'm saying? Security concerns. Somebody on the yard with his security concerns, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? They locking shit down, man. You know what I'm saying? But check this out. Let's get into this real quick. Yeah. Let them know where they at, bro.
Man, y'all in one of the hottest lives on YouTube, man. Salute to the chat. Y'all know that's where it's at. Salute to the Blue Wrench Mob that's on their job. And salute to the friends that tapped in for the first time. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the content. Salute to Clubhouse. Salute to the Goo. Salute to the Miles on stage. Make sure you share the room 3 times so we can get that shine. Again, man, salute to everybody that's tuning in right now, man. Y'all see the content. Y'all see the title. Reggie Wright Jr. fingered in death row. Y'all know the rest, man. Listen, you said it would do Sims to die. Y'all Elder Kiwe pop star. Bringing y'all the receipts with authentic voices of the culture.
I'm sure that the court was enlightened by your geopolitical tirade, Mr. Brown. Unfortunately, society at large is not on trial here. You are Mr. Brown. Were you or were you not head of the narcotics consortium, the murderously bloody CMB?
You're the one who's guilty. The lawmakers, the politicians, the Colombian drug lords.
My brother, Dose of Reality TV. Y'all make sure y'all go check that one out. I just had to start it off with the brother. See, a Dose of Reality TV whole creative energy is on something different, man. You know what I'm saying? He's an innovator, man. Y'all got to pay attention, man. He set trends. You know what I'm saying? But look, we're going to get into this. Hit that like button if you're just coming in. Let's get this started. You know?
And certain security was invited, and I happened to be
telling a lie is like building a house of cards. It always starts with some version of the truth. That's your foundation. From that point, layers and layers of lies are all stacked on top of their foundation. And the focus is that top layer, the lie that serves their goal. But if you have enough time for those lies to grow, they become the word on the street. Now, that doesn't mean those lies are any more true than they were 10 years ago. It's more like people who've never heard anything different. Well, that's just all they've heard. But the thing about a house of cards is that at its heart, it's flimsy. And the layers of lies on top of lies puts a weight on the foundation that it only takes busting one lie that brings the whole house of cards down. Just like it did for Death Row.
Should call the meeting. All the artists were instructed to come to this meeting, and certain security was invited, and I happened to be one of them. The meeting was basically about what happened, and the artists were drilling security about what methods we had used and what were some of our tactics, which I looked around and no one said it. No one was speaking up for security. So I was one of the few people that spoke up and said, wait a minute, we were instructed not to carry weapons. And none of the artists knew that. They didn't know we were instructed not to carry weapons that day. And it looked like Reggie wasn't gonna say that information to them.
My opinion of
Reggie didn't want them to know that he stopped them from being armed the day Pac got knocked down. Niggas is trying to cover shit up and hide facts. For what reason, nigga? This shit is weird. Let's go.
Reggie Wright Jr. he's employed by Death Row Records to do a certain job. He's going to do what his employer has him do.
You want to just make me security?
He whiz.
When I owned everything. Had your buildings, the 5 cars, your women, Reggie's name.
And when it comes to Death Row Records, you have to be careful about what you believe.
Death Row Records and Reggie Wright had 2 big problems on their hands at this point. The first one was that Vegas PD just weren't buying the whole Orlando Anderson narrative, no matter how bad Tim Brennan and Bobby Ladd were trying to sell it. The second problem they had was that Frank Alexander was unwilling to repeat the lie that he had been asked to tell earlier regarding the chain being snatched the day of the shooting.
Went down to Vegas. Me, you, and Malcolm, like, the statement that you gave about the chain and all of that.
So Reggie don't want the police to know that he told the security not to bring their blammers that night. And now here he is wanting them to believe and put into play some kind of doubt about a chain being snatched at the mall. So check this out.
With the additional information.
Now, you have to understand the second part of the false flag. All the time, Brennan and Ladd are running Vegas around with the Orlando Anderson narrative. Reggie Wright Jr. and Suge Knight are actively running interference with witnesses because they were Death Row affiliated.
Again, we're talking about a musical artist, a backup band, whatever. I mean, they're very mobile. They're from different parts of the country. And it's not like everybody it's going to be easy because they all own a home and they're all easy to locate. Most of these guys didn't own homes. They'd go stay at family, friends, whatever. So we would try to get in touch with people and you'd have to go through Death Row Records or whomever to try and locate them.
Unfortunately, that was the lifestyle. At Death Row, there were people that were carrying weapons constantly, people that were involved in shootings and beatings and everything else, and officers are protecting the perimeter.
Other witnesses, though, who have since ended up deceased, that we attempted to talk to that night, refused to talk to us. McDonald didn't have anything he wanted to say to us. Now he's dead.
About country didn't have nothing to talk about.
People that we talked to during an investigation in California, they're dead. I mean, yeah, a lot of people have died that were directly or indirectly linked to this investigation.
Do you see how this operates? From one side, they're feeding Vegas all this disinformation, and the other side is obstructing the investigation and telling people to avoid the police.
So these are different investigators and federal agents who are familiar with the case, noticing that Detective Ladd and Brennan were sent out there to go muddy the investigation in their investigation that their boss's son, Reggie Wright Jr., their boss being Reggie Wright Sr., sent them out here to muddy the investigation. This is nasty work. These is what FBI detectives are believing. This is what people doing journalistic research are starting to conclude. So here where they, you got the security bodyguard Michael Moore, Frank Alexander, talking about going to court.
Right. No. Okay. They recommend you don't get subpoenaed, whatever that's worth. I don't know what it means, but that's what they told me to tell you. Who told you to tell me that? Okay, Reggie told me to tell you that, but he told me not to tell you that he said it. Now, he said, don't get subpoenaed, whatever you do.
Why is it that after the shooting occurred that you basically asked Frank Alexander to retell a narrative? I have the recorded phone calls, and to not get subpoenaed.
To not get subpoenaed? I was telling him to get subpoenaed. I wanted him to come to court. If you lost and not get subpoenaed today, I think you'll be fine. Yeah, Reggie.
But Suge wrote me a letter, which the FBI got. It was like nobody had told him anything I was out there doing. And I came and saw him, and he was like, man, I thought you abandoned me. You know, nobody's telling me anything about you.
It's kind of hard to believe that Knight felt abandoned, being as how Reggie visited him almost 200 documented times in prison.
You'd have to go through death row records or whomever to try and locate him. Classic example, we ended up getting a lot of press about how Malcolm Greenidge said he could identify the shooter. We finally tracked him down to set up a re-interview, and he says, I'm not going to look at any photos because I can't identify him. Yeah, we got beat up in the LA Times over that, you know? And I'm thinking, okay, put up or shut up, Ace. And, well, but again, Reggie Wright Jr. is the one that brought him to that interview.
I don't think Vegas understood how crooked death row was at that point, so they believed these Compton guys. You know, Brennan was saying good things about both Wrights, so Vegas trusted them.
Truly, Tupac Shakur, I think I'd heard the name before the night he was shot, but I knew nothing of the person.
Russ Poole called it a false flag operation, and I don't see how you could call it anything else, especially if it's true that Reggie Wright Jr. was informing for the FBI and the LAPD. Was he also informing for Vegas? I mean, this is Knight's right-hand guy, and he's straight up snitching to law enforcement.
Phil Carson, I'm a retired FBI agent, and I'm here today to talk about the Tupac Shakur murder and the investigation that followed.
The problem I have is when you or others just blurt things out to try to promote a certain narrative and are factually incorrect. They're wrong.
Let me speak a little bit about Reggie Wright Jr. Reggie's made it very clear in a lot of interviews that he went from never working for the FBI to working for Dan McMullen, for working for L.J. Conley, who was my partner, and that he was an FBI informant. So I'm not saying anything right now regarding Reggie Wright Jr. that he hasn't already said a million times over on a documentary or on a podcast or any type of interview. yes, Reggie was working with the FBI. In this last interview that I did on his podcast, he stated that he only provided information regarding the corrupt mayor of Compton at that time, which is Omar Bradley. Okay, that's a flat out lie. And if anybody believes that that's all that Reggie provided, they're fools. Wake up, people, okay?
And you believe I was involved in
I didn't say.
So you got Phil Carson letting you know that this nigga is playing dirty pool. Pork Butt is playing dirty pool. He said he only set up the Mayor Bradley, the mayor of Compton. Wore wire, set him up, allegedly. He admitted to me that he did. Try to get him locked up. I guess because he was shutting down the police, the Compton Police Department, turning them to sheriffs or vice versa. Whatever it was, that's how he tried to justify working with the federales, right? So this is been who he was the whole time. Reggie Wright Jr. is the police. You know what I'm saying? You remember what Gonzo said? Because you the police. Nigga, we don't give a fuck about what Reggie Wright Jr. is talking about because he's the police. Pork butt. Pork butt always gonna think like the police.
That. I didn't say that. I didn't say that you were involved. I didn't say you were not involved.
Okay. I said, but if you do believe that, let me just ask you this.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead, Reg.
Why didn't you ever come knocking on my door and talk to me? You saw the 302s on me before, right? You know that I was an open book, cooperate. Why you never came and just been, hey, Reggie, I want to talk to you about these things.
You want me to?
You know, I knew.
You want me to answer? Hold on. Oh, Reggie, if that's your question, do you want me to honestly answer it?
I've done my best to try to help Reggie cover for himself, tell him when to keep his mouth shut, and Reggie just goes on and on and on.
Yes, sir.
Real quick, G Wiz said, I don't think Porky that smart to get away with it. He would have had to have help from letters above him and their objectives. That he been working with the letters above him, as well as his dad. They got a long history of federal time. Why are my dogs going crazy? Let's get back to this real quick. I'll close the door.
You sure? Because I'm trying to protect you from yourself here.
No, go ahead.
Okay. We did talk to you, Reggie, and it's documented, okay?
Reggie provided a lot of information. He was in a very high-level position of death row records. He was very aware of what we were doing in terms of investigations, numerous investigations on death row records and Suge Knight. We executed search warrants. He helped provide information. Reggie had a game plan, and he made it very, very clear that he wanted to take over death row records. Make no mistake about that.
This is what I'm trying to explain to you. Yes.
The FBI, Phil Carson, who was investigating death row, was investigating Reggie Wright, investigating Reggie Wright's father. They're saying that there was a play for Reggie Wright Jr. to take over death row. And he's a suspect in the Biggie and Tupac albums. But they're not the only one. We'll get to that later. Oh, hit that like button.
It's the policy of the FBI that we never openly discuss who our FBI informants are, and that's what allows us to have such a good relationship with our informants.
This is what I'm trying to explain to you, Reggie. Whether you remember things,
all right, let me
whether
know,
you remember
Mo,
things or don't remember things, I don't have control over. Okay?
Many years ago, the FBI had two classifications of informants. One was called a 137, and one was called a 270. A 137 informant was an informant that was providing information, but they weren't doing it because they were trying to work off, say, a drug arrest or some type of fraud investigation. A 137 could be just a person that was just had a conscience, was trying to do some community like a community service type thing, just trying to help out law enforcement. We would not provide that person's name. If a judge asked for that person's name, we were not obligated to give it, and we would not give it. And that helped the FBI build a real strong trust. So if somebody came in and said, hey, my neighbor's committing this crime and I've got young children and I need something done about it and I'll do whatever I can to help you guys. We're never going to ask that person to testify. We're never going to disclose who that person is, but we want people to feel comfortable coming to the FBI knowing that it's safe and secure and we're not going to divulge their identity or anything like that or where this information came from. That's a 137. That's what Russ Poole was with me. The other
So that's some information that I bet a lot of niggas is shit at they pants, namely Reggie Wright Jr., when he find out Detective Russell Poole was a 137 for the FBI, a LAPD officer, was a confidential source 137 for the FBI in the Rampart Scandal. This is nasty work, bro. But remember that money came into play. That lawsuit, man. Listen, bro, this was the biggest scandal going on in Los Angeles history. Watch this.
Kind of informant, it's a 270. That somebody is, let's say they got caught robbing a bank and they know about 10 other bank robbers because they helped participate in other bank robberies as a drive-away or something like that, or help try to plan, say, a bank robbery. And so they wanted to cooperate. And for that cooperation, we wouldn't promise them anything, but we told them it's mandatory that you're willing to testify, and then based on the information that you provide, the truthfulness and the results from the information you provided, there's a strong likelihood that they're going to get some type of benefit from, you know, whether a sentence get reduced or whatever the case may be. That's a 270. So it all depends on where you classify, if you're somebody that's trying to work a beef off or you're just trying to provide information, you know, to cut yourself a good deal, and you're not doing it out of the goodwill of your heart.
You understand that? You understand the distinction between the two, right?
Okay, yeah, I got you.
Okay.
The gist of what I got out of it was these people were employed by a certain company to do a certain job, and that's all you're going to do. You aren't going to divulge anything else about what has been going on.
But I'm going to add something to that. We were also instructed to lie. Suge called a meeting, and all the artists were instructed to come to this meeting, and certain security was invited, and I happened to be one of them. And when I got into the meeting, it was a meeting the meeting was basically about what happened. And the reason we were instructed to lie was because Reggie Wright told us not to carry any weapons. So I have, by me just looking at what Reggie told me, I'm thinking that Mr. Knight was unaware.
It was quite obvious.
So that's another key point you got to keep in mind. A lot of people wanted to tag Suge because of their perception of Suge, the good and the bad, and label like as if he had something to do with Pac getting knocked down. And what they're saying is, nah, Reggie Wright Jr. had us lying and not telling Suge that he's told us not to bring pistols that night. It's in the paperwork. So he's dead. The officer, the bodyguard is dead now. But before he died, he made sure that the world knew. You know what I'm saying? He made sure that the feds knew when they came and talked to him. Let's go.
That information pissed off some people, and people just kind of shut down as far as answering our questions related to that.
But there's a lot of things that you're saying today about death row and about Suge and about who committed murder or who could have been involved that are 100% factually wrong, and it's documented.
For years, even though nothing was going on in the investigation of the murder of Tupac Shakur, there was one voice out there that was keeping this narrative alive. And this was Chuck Phillips from the LA Times. Phillips was a Pulitzer Prize winning author who many sources claim was also an inside man for Death Row Records. Unreleased recordings discovered after Phillips' death reveal that not only was Phillips completely on board with the Anderson narrative, but in his attempt to get Frank Alexander to testify, Phillips drops a bombshell that may change the entire complexion of the case. He claims Suge Knight stated to both Phillips and death row attorney David Kenner that he never saw a shooter at all.
Suge maintains to me and to Kenner and to the law enforcement that he actually didn't see it. And he couldn't identify because he didn't see it.
So you have to ask who's being honest here, Phillips or Knight?
Chuck Phillips came along because he was a award-winning writer. He had some credibility. And the first time he wrote it, it sounded really weird, but there was because of his credibility and because of who he wrote with. You thought about it, but it didn't make real sense because you gotta know it was bigger. And then one of my sons said to me, Chuck Phillips is on Suge's payroll. Oh, okay, then that's the end of that. Now when he comes back and he writes, because he called us to tell us he was gonna write it, that he was doing it, the first one. That Biggie killed Tupac, Biggie and, what's his name, Puffy. And that now you playing off that rivalry, that so-called rivalry. Now he's back on, see, because what he did there is what he did then, is he took a little bit of some truth and he put other stuff in it.
It's a street code to not tell the police, but why would you lie to your attorney? Maybe you wouldn't.
Shout out to the Asian boy.
As long as the name Orlando Anderson was in the news and the media, this is real convenient for Reggie Wright because no one's asking him about his culpability.
It's probably in your best interest that we move on to something else. You can trust me or don't trust me. It's not, because it's, you know what, it's no skin off my back. But I think we can now agree that yes, you have met with me. Yes, you have talked with me. Yes, I've met with your father. Yes, I know your background.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. When the conversation was set up, I don't traditionally put two people together to have them sort of, for lack of a better word, parse out truth or narrative, what have you, right? I usually interview somebody and record it, and then I write to it. And so that particular night, you know, there was no real planning other than we were going to talk to Reggie and sort of see what came out of it, you know? It's funny because I've done so much of this work and so many moments of it. I have to say, on that phone call with Reggie Wright and with Phil, I was actually surprised, confused, was shocked at the interaction that transpired, because two things seemingly happened. Is Phil, who up to that point had never really alluded to the fact that Reggie had worked with the FBI or the FBI group that was responsible for the death row investigation. But then you seemingly had Reggie admit it.
In fact, I mean, in some of these other interviews that you've done, you keep saying like, Phil Carson doesn't know shit about me. I've never met the guy. That's wrong, isn't it?
But I do know two things. One, there is not a word that comes out of Phil Carson's mouth that he cannot prove. And number two, Phil Carson is not interested in anything but the facts and the truth of what happened in his investigation. And so it's kind of funny if you look at all the other players in this who like to partake in social media bullshit, right? Like to partake in this back and forth. If you notice, Phil Carson isn't on Instagram. Phil Carson is not on Twitter. Phil Carson does not have a social media account, right? He went on the record in the dossier, and so it's laughable now that Reggie Wright Jr. has tried to talk himself out of this, okay? Where Phil Carson's partner was Reggie's handler at the FBI.
This is the first that I hear that, and if you, I remember LJ, and if you said you was his partner, then I met with you.
Okay.
Because he did have somebody with him.
Okay, we should probably, okay, I think we'll move on then.
So now you have Reggie Wright Jr. secretly snitching out Death Row Records, while publicly he's throwing Kevin Hackey under the bus for his work with the ATF.
So I have to say, I was almost an audience member in listening to this and just sort of going, well, this is crazy. This is another element to this. And to go further, you know, Phil has told me repeatedly they had an upwards of 5 FBI informants within Death Row. Mob James being one.
What happened?
About what?
Shooting a Biggie.
I don't know anything about that.
You have nothing to give the feds.
I have nothing to give them.
Even if it meant shaving some time off.
Number one, I ain't that dude. I'm just not. But number two, I can't help him.
So to me, when I saw and listened to that interaction, it started to make a lot more sense. And it was the first time that you could go, Reggie Wright was an FBI informant.
I mean, you got to trust me on this. For your own safety, let's just move on to something else, then, okay?
I'm not worried about it because it's obvious.
Well,
yeah. Yeah.
it's for your own good. Anyways, right.
Anyway.
Number one, I ain't that dude. I'm just not.
What he was saying, and you can hear it on the phone, he was basically saying, hey, Reggie, I'm trying to protect you.
So Reggie Wright, he didn't say a whole heck of a lot, I thought. I mean, he said a lot in not saying it, but
Right.
he certainly wasn't very forthcoming.
I was a co-showrunner on that show, right? In the middle, or I believe it was either in the middle or before or after all of that questioning, Reggie went in the bathroom and threw up.
I was just interested in why he would point the finger at Suge so quick.
Because I was the one who wrote the questions for Soledad O'Brien and for Ice-T to ask Reggie. The thing with that show is, you know, Ice being Ice, he was incredible on that show, but he's very much a politician, right? So I would give him the easy questions to ask that wasn't going to cause controversy, and then I would give Soledad the journalistic questions, and those questions came from me, and everyone always tells the story about him throwing up in the bathroom of his house after saying the shit he said in that interview.
He wouldn't say it to you, but he definitely pointed it. We call that dry snitching.
Interesting.
There are dangers with informants, especially when their law enforcement handlers vouch for their credibility. There's always a possibility that an informant can take law enforcement for a wild goose chase. What we learned from the story of mob enforcer Whitey Bulger is that for years, the FBI trusted Bulger as an informant. Bulger used the trust of the FBI to feed them information, but it was information against rival gangs and not any of his own. Because they liked him, the FBI actually gave up names of informants in his own gang. Bulger misdirected the FBI for his own needs, and they even helped him stay out of trouble for years. It's really easy to see the similarities here. In this case, we see one narrative pushed to law enforcement while obstruction is happening on other narratives. And if you cross them, you're ratted out.
Please, Stop playing with me. I know too much about you guys that walk around now with your chest all poked out. Because I play both sides. Both sides, you know that?
And you just have to wonder if the rats on death row's sinking ship were a bunch of mini Bulgers. It didn't matter. The Orlando Anderson narrative was the driver. And once they were inside, it feels like they were able to steer cops in Anderson's direction and away from anyone else who had anything to say on any other possibility.
Tell me, other than being a police officer? Other than being a police officer? Tell me what person that Reggie Wright went and got on the stand and testified against? Tell me, other than being a police officer, tell me what person that Reggie Wright went and got on the stand and testified against? I bet y'all can't come up with no motherfucking body.
Closer to the end, I didn't get to see him that much. We talked. I actually wrote him a letter when he was hiding out in LA. And people around him told me he kept it in his pocket for a long time. But I just basically told him some things that I saw when I was like meditating in my prayer for him and his life, some warnings and then some great stuff too. But they said he would read it all the time. I was like, really? Like, yeah, he kept it with him. I was like, wow, I didn't know that. I think he got shot on like, two of my favorite numbers are 7 and 13. Yep. And I think Pac was shot on the 7th and passed away on the 13th when they declared him on the 13th. And I was so upset because I was afraid of the 13th. Yeah, and it messed me up, man.
I just personally believe that his death is related to us. And that's from what I've gathered when I was at New York, what I heard Pac tell Suge Knight, and what I heard over that radio that night after the shots were fired. I never did get over it. I think the only person I talked to about it was Frank. And to this day, I believe that that gotcha was inside the organization and not out.
Death Row Records was not the place to be in the immediate fallout from the shooting of Tupac Shakur because they had several big problems. The first problem that they had was that Las Vegas police were actually calling Death Row Records trying to set up and schedule witness interviews with the people that were associated with Death Row. The second problem that they had was they were trying to rush the Machiavelli album that Tupac had just made in order to capitalize on Tupac's death.
It was such a mess after, I get a phone call, hey, go to the mastering house and master the Machiavelli record. And I'm like, well, we haven't even mixed the thing yet, They're like, oh, just take the mixes that you guys did from the night of the sessions, which there's only 2 songs we sat down and mixed. So all that stuff is just Tupac would have us run off.
Hey, I have had the pleasure of recording with Tommy D. Salute to Tommy D, man, one of Tupac's engineers. Dope white boy. He even probably mixed and mastered a lot of Tupac's favorite songs y'all like. Let's go.
To that.
I don't know.
So it's already really mixes. So when people say to me, wow, that's, that mix is unbelievable, I'm just like, it's not even a mix. That's live, going right to the DAT machine, never see the songs again.
If that wasn't enough, 35 days after Tupac dies, an arrest warrant for Mr. Knight is issued for what happened at the MGM. And at this point, the only one who might be able to help Knight is the one they set up to fail. And he wasn't going with it.
Listen to what I'm saying. I gave a statement to Metro based on what you and Suge asked me to do that night I went to the meeting at Suge's house, okay, about the chain getting snatched.
Frank Alexander had already lied about the whole chain snatch. There's a concern that Alexander may not go with the program.
Well, I've already sort of that's going to jeopardize a lot. That's perjury there. Okay, this stuff is already on record.
After the shooting occurred on September 7th that evening, I don't understand something that occurred.
So when Frank Alexander won't play ball, The only move death row had was to bribe the victim. That would be Orlando Anderson.
Suge would do stuff that could have got his probation violated. And to get the witnesses to retract their beliefs or their statements, you give them money. It's how America works.
And here's the crack in the narrative. At that same time, they are in Vegas saying Orlando Anderson was a killer. Don't you think Anderson knew they were trying to hang him in Vegas?
But it didn't matter.
If that's
the judge didn't believe Anderson anyway. And everyone wants to focus on Anderson, as why Knight's parole was revoked. And sure, they got Knight for the Anderson beating, but that's not what got him in front of the judge. The move that got Knight off the playing field was a call from someone who knew exactly where he was. It was a call made to his probation officer telling him Knight went out of the country.
Because there's two things that I always say, being from the ghetto, either they're gonna take the money from you, which you be OJ. If they can't take the money from you, they take you from the money. The only way they take you from the money is by you dying, death, or in prison.
So for a while, Knight was out of the way, and somehow all of Knight's property made its way into Reggie's hands.
I don't know if I've got it sitting in front of me here. I'll show you this. You're gonna love this. This is the grant deed for the Wilshire building. That building was transferred into the name of Reggie Wright by Miss Chalet, who called herself his attorney in fact. If you notice, it transfers the building to Reggie Wright, but Suge Knight's signature is nowhere on this grant deed.
Reggie had a game plan, and he made it very, very clear that he wanted to take over Death Row Records. Make no mistake about that.
You want this?
So we gonna get into that too. I told Reggie, nigga, you stole Suge building, nigga, put it in your name. Then you had a bank account open in the name of Death Row. He said I was lying. This nigga was a dirty nigga, put you in position where you got exclusive contract, bodyguard, and all the biggest stars on the West Coast and on to the East Coast and all kind of other shit. And you want to take the nigga company, bro. Everybody want to be Kobe. Let's go.
Make me security. When I owned everything, had your buildings, the 5 cars, the house where Little Suge, the Sosa, and Stormy lived. Reggie's name.
So while Reggie Jr. was busy putting all of Knight's property in his name, news came that Mr. Knight may be appealing his case. The problem was that Orlando Anderson may not be a friendly witness this time. Knight was granted an appeal in April of 1998. But by then, Orlando Anderson had done several interviews on television denying charges against him. And 2 months before that, in February of 1998, Anderson actually did a deposition on the accusations. It looked like Anderson was not going to be as cooperative as he had been.
Yeah.
From 1995 to date, have you ever ridden in a white Cadillac? No. Do you know anyone who owns a white Cadillac? No.
So Knight appeals, and that was April of 1998. And Death Row realizes Anderson may not play ball. Guess what happens the very next month?
When they say the shooting happened there at the car wash hamburger stand, Alphalange and Willowbrook, that area. But he was found on the 1 Street just over. Yeah. And the first person on scene, Andy, was Reggie Wright.
Imagine that.
First person, man. And he was shocked when he saw myself and Pilcher there at first. The first unit to show up, undercover narcotics officers.
Wow.
You know.
I did not know.
Yeah, and he was dead. They shot him up good. That's why I say there's conspiracy there where possibly he followed and called, you know, okay, he's over here. Let's do him in. Let's get it done.
Wow.
All right. So then there's another write-up that Ray Richardson got a dying declaration from Orlando Anderson. And
what is that? Tupac.
Something like that. Yeah. Okay.
There are many good reasons, including his own words, to believe several actions taken by Reggie Wright Jr. were suspicious. But even if Wright's actions on the night of September 7, 1996 were not directly connected to the shooting of Tupac, it doesn't mean he and his half-baked bodyguard company were out of the woods yet. I wonder if he and Knight knew they may have been on the hook for criminal negligence. Let's just be honest and say the security for Tupac was a joke. But you need to understand that criminal negligence is really a thing. If you cross the line from sloppy to reckless, you can go to prison for it.
And so let's talk for a moment about negligence and how it might have criminal impact. A parent leaves a baby in a car seat, in the car, windows rolled up when it's 100 degrees outside. The baby unfortunately dies and the parent is charged with an act of criminal negligence. That's one example. Now, the parent can have 1,000 reasons why they did what they did. In fact, they might say they didn't intend for it to be the way it was. The courts don't care. It's what is referred to as a duty of care. And again, it's kind of hard to describe it, but when you're looking at it and observing it and examining it, you can figure it out. You don't figure it out sometimes until after the fact, but you can figure it out.
Negligence is violation of a duty that you owe to others imposed by the conduct that you're engaged in. You're driving a car.
If y'all in the music industry and you don't know who Virgil is, and you're at least my age or older, then you wasn't really doing nothing in the music industry.
You have a duty to the rest of the world not to run a red light and have a car accident, not to go through a crosswalk and run over somebody. So you owe a duty of care to others to not do things. So if you're a doctor, you have a duty of care to your patients, to perform up to what would be community norms or standards.
Recently, actor Alec Baldwin was given a loaded prop gun, which he used and shot a camera person to death. Could there be an act of criminal negligence there?
So if you're an armorer, you have an obligation to not have loaded weapons on the job site without giving a lot of notice to people that this weapon is live.
If I would have been on the set of the movie Rust with Alec Baldwin, who I know a little bit, nobody would have got shot because he didn't have me on the movie set or someone like me that had a strict standard of the safety on the set is more important than anything else. Obviously, we're here for Mr. Costner, but is there any part where someone's going to be pointing a gun at or around his direction? Who said that?
You did on the chair?
Yeah. One has action, one doesn't have action.
On est bon.
Yeah.
Ouais. David, donc attends. Là, on en fait peut-être une idée.
Because I would have turned and said, who's this who's never been in the military, never been in law enforcement, never had any government agency say, you are now an expert in firearms.
You don't do that. You violated your duty by not giving notice to others. And if somebody picks up the gun and they use it, you're part of that chain of tragedy and you're negligent. Because if you'd done what you're supposed to do, nobody would have been shot.
I've never had a bodyguard assignment. Everybody always say, you a security, but no, I was always with you, making shit happen. I was really Suge's right hand.
The fact of the matter is that everybody in his entourage has blood on their hands, period. There's always excuses after the fact.
One of Reggie's problems was that Reggie didn't have the executive protection background that we all had.
So let's get real here. By his own words, he wasn't focused on and frankly, didn't care about the bodyguard problem. He knew about the radio issue, but didn't fix that either. And the amazing thing is that he admitted to the 2023 grand jury that he went to the MGM, saw the crowd, knew about the security issues and just bailed. Of course, he's also tried to walk back the gun problem by saying it only applied to Club 662. They're told they can't have guns. Michael Moore refused, and he was pulled off of Tupac.
Frank and I would speak up about it. You know, we would say, hey, Reggie, you know, you should do it this way, and this is why. Or you should do it this way, and this is why. And I think he was so busy being the boss that his employees couldn't tell him how or what to do, when all we were trying to do was educate him a little bit.
Reggie told all hip hop that I never said. They told us not to carry our guns in that meeting. He said that in my book, I wrote that I didn't carry my gun on purpose. Let me tell you, Reggie, I did write that we were told not to carry guns in my book, Got Your Back. You need to get your glasses on and read it.
The bad guy is not willing to trade his life for the life of the target. That would be a suicide bomber. The bad guy, the majority of the time, he wants to shoot him and get away. He can't do that if 16 guys are shooting back at him. He's either going to be dead or they're going to catch him. Point being that when you take away the firearms, you take away the weapons, when you make all your guys work unarmed, it is a bright red flashing warning light that you need to turn to your client, Tupac Shakur, and say, hey, Tupac, this plan is bullshit. It's like they're setting you up to be killed. It could get you killed. I refuse to do it because I care more about your safety than keeping my job.
I've never had a bodyguard assignment. Everybody always say, you a security, but no, I was always with you, making shit happen. I was really Suge's right hand.
There's a movie called The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner. And as you know, I've been Kevin Costner's personal bodyguard. Kevin is filming a TV movie where he's playing himself directing the movie. I led a 7-man protective detail, and we were originally told just have one guy stand outside the trailer. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. This is Kevin Costner. He's a huge movie star, huge TV star. That's the first order I had to disobey for his safety. They threatened to fire me several times. We want one guy to stand at the trailer. No, I'm bringing 7 guys.
There were every gun-toting crook, you know, in that echelon of people.
That's what I was doing. I went to MGM, saw that shit was hectic and all that. Frank and Tupac, I'm gonna be honest, Tupac called, cussing, going on. Yeah, that was the last thing Tupac ever said to me in life.
The security was a mess in Vegas, and he's throwing his hands up, blaming everyone else for not telling him things. You are the director of security for a multi-million-dollar label. How is it not on you to communicate with your own employees?
All the people in my group at one time or another have got together as a group and told me, let's go talk to the client. Their plan is dangerous and it's going to get somebody killed. And we went and spoke to them as a client, as a group, directly to the client. That if they would have done that, I believe that Tupac Shakur would have kept them. He would have changed the plan back to something safe. And most importantly, he would have come to a realization that Reggie Wright Jr. did not have his best intentions at heart, did not have his true safety at heart, and in fact, were making decisions that could get him killed.
And in fact, it did get him killed.
It's clear he cared more about Club 662 than the life of Tupac.
Nobody cared about Park having the right amount of security at all, period.
No one cared.
It was not mentioned at all.
No one cared.
Do you really think that Frank Alexander would ditch his gun if the only place he couldn't have it was Club 662? And if not having a gun was so important, then why would they pull Michael Moore off Tupac when he was the only one vocal about not ditching his gun, and take him over to the club where no guns were allowed?
It just didn't add up. It didn't add up. Reggie was so weird. I'm gonna tell you another thing. Let's look at Reggie's thing. Why would Reggie? He never, ever went to that club. He turned it over to Al every time. He turned it over to you. Right. He turned it over to Marcus the time before that. It was never there. And he was never there. Why was he so insistent on being there? And I asked him. When I first got to the club, I said, Reggie, why are you here? Aren't you going to shoot? No, I got to take taking care of things at the club. And guess what? What did he do different? Nothing. Nothing. Nothing at all. He did nothing. He just was there.
I, as most people did, felt bad about him being assassinated. And the fact of the matter is that I've never once heard publicly the real and total breakdown that happened. What I've heard is everybody making excuses to make themselves look good. Well, they told me this. Well, they told me that. Well, this happened or that happened. That's why I'm going to shift the blame to someone else.
I received a call from Reggie about 11:15 at night. I mean, he was just, a tape was worth $1 million. If I'd had the tape, just cursing me out about how I should have got on the plane and this and that. And, Suge's upset, all these people down here. And, it's only Frank with Tupac. And so I said to him, well, you have all these cops over here at 662. Why don't you have the cops over there with him? And Reggie I could tell, I know Reggie well enough, and I know you well enough, that he was agitated. There was something in his voice. And my statement to him is, why would you just have Frank with him when you got all these other cops? And just Kev, he just don't know. This is their #1 artist. I mean, he's as high profile as they get. And you're paying for all the security. I mean, you got all these guys at the club.
What is your current relationship with Reggie Wright, head of Right Way Security?
There is none. He was harsh in his firing me.
I actually left Death Row on my own accord.
No, I haven't been in contact with him. I haven't seen Reggie now in about 3 years or more than that.
I have no relationship with Reggie Wright at this time, nor do I plan to.
I guess the way to sum Reggie up is he was just selfish, and he didn't treat us right.
Reggie is not honest, and I want to leave it at that.
We were a tight-knit group, and Reggie didn't see that. He didn't appreciate that, and he tried to come between it many times by paying someone a little bit more than the next person, or cheating somebody on this and on that. And one thing I knew, obviously this whole thing was starting to fall apart. And like I said, at one point or another, Reggie and I were like brothers. At one point or another, there's nothing I wouldn't do for Reggie. And I think vice versa at one time. But Reggie always told me he was so far in now, there's no way to turn it around. Something's wrong. The pieces of this whole situation, it just doesn't fit.
It's curious to me that you have 4 of the bodyguards closest to Tupac, and somehow not one of them left on good terms, and not one of them had anything good to say about Wright.
And with the exit of Frank Alexander, Kenneth Archer, and Les Golden, it looked as if Death Row was going to step up to a different type of police officer for its security.
I was working the Kevin Gaines shooting when I was contacted by an officer named Ken Knox out of, I think it was either West Valley Division or Devonshire Division. Knox had heard I was investigating an officer-involved shooting, and I think he'd heard my victim in this shooting was working with Death Row Records in some capacity.
I mean, you're right that Kenneth Knox is probably the most underrepresented character in this story, because he was the very first guy to get on the fact that there were all these cops working for Death Row Records. He sort of stumbled into it. He was the senior lead officer, which is, it's an elite position, and there's just one at every LAPD station. And he was responding to citizen complaints about activity at Death Row's studios. So he's back and forth with this guy, and the guy says, well, one of the people who sits here is one of your own guys. What?
Anybody that says that LAPD officers were not working security for Death Row Records is 100% wrong, period. You had Chief Bernard Parks on camera, specifically even naming David Mack and Rafael Perez as 2 officers that were working security for Death Row Records.
You can't get around that. It's on the news. We got the clip. Chief Bernard Park said that Detective Rafael Perez and David Mack were working, and others were working for Death Row Records. He said a record label, and then they were like Death Row Records. He said, yeah. He confirmed that, bro.
That's indisputable, okay? You've got numerous employees that we did interviews with that stated, yes, these police officers were always around Death Row Records. They had all these after parties from award shows. Wherever they went, there was no better relationship than having a cop with you that has a gun and a badge.
He's finding out that there are a number of other LAPD officers working for Death Row Records, and that they're higher-ups that already know it. It's already been, he goes to his superior who says, yeah, we know that. They shut him down, basically. They got him alone in a room and threatened him and told him his career was over. And, you know, the one thing he did do was pass it on to Russ Poole.
Reggie Wright Jr. was the head of Right Way Securities and provided security for Death Row Records. For him to say that no LAPD officers, other than a couple that we've mentioned, that he was not aware of any of these other officers, such as Mack or Perez or Durden or Martin or Gaines, provided security at Death Row. Reggie's either the worst manager of all time of providing security, or he's just a fucking liar. Or both in this case, to be honest with you. He is. And it's a fact.
With the LAPD now officially running interference for cops working for Death Row, and Reggie Wright converting Death Row assets away from Marion Knight, and a narrative blaming Orlando Anderson for the Tupac killing on the rise, there looked to be no stopping the untouchable Death Row Records.
Y'all know what I perpetrate or put out on that particular day, but you don't really know me, you know? So you don't know what I'm capable of doing or not doing.
Man, listen. We can get back to that later. Let's get up on this. Hey, salute, hit that like button. We cooking. Welcome to the Damu Kiwe Conversations, man. Salute to everybody that's still on Clubhouse. It look like a lot of people that split. I know they couldn't see it. I understand why they splitting. We're going to go on a whack 100, dry and wet, lies snitching. Wait, first we're going to play this. Hold on. Let me get to this first.
My friend. Boncher was my fucking friend. Ride or die. You can't kill Boncher and have me forget it. I will never forget it. Reggie killed Boncher. Reggie Wright Jr. ordered the hit on Boncher and Hen Dog.
Yeah, that's what we waiting on. I got a little sample of how it's coming out, and it was done, my nigga. I don't know what's up. You see, he said it's coming. Maybe he'll tell us in a minute. Let's get to this whack 100 dry and wet lies snitching. What's the reason why I wanted to run this? Because we might get the word of the premiere. Let's go.
The other day, I was just going through YouTube, and I went to my favorite hip-hop platform, World Star Hip Hop, and I got some bad news. I found out that my big homie was talking to the cops.
Who's that? Who, me? Yeah, bro, I'm gonna keep it real with you. You know, I ain't gonna be no business everybody big you telling, this telling, you know. Bro, I told,
He called you Rat 100. How do you feel about that?
Welcome back to Scandalous Los Angeles TV, where we expose the exposers. For years, CS2back has painted himself as the shot caller of the West Coast. But behind the chest-pounding and street talk lies a paper trail of betrayal, contradictions, and cooperation. Big U, Jay Diggs, Jimmy Henchman, Marion Knight, and Compton Rick Rock are just a few of the names that at some point Porky has lie-snitched and attempted to implicate in some type of crime. And let's be clear, it's not just men. Porky even publicly ratted on Krishan Rock, on camera, offering up information to the police, like it was evidence in court. One minute he's aligned with you. The next, he's flipping your story to fit his narrative. All while claiming to stand on real principles. For the last couple of days, Porky's been praising and quoting the 48 laws of power like gospel. He's been ranting and raving about it, as if he's some tactical war strategist. But here's one of the 48 laws that Porky must have forgotten about. Law number 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. Once you've become well known, don't wear out your welcome. The more you're seen and heard from, the more you cheapen your brand. It says don't wear out your welcome, and I think we can all agree that Porky has long overstayed his. It also says, the more you're seen and heard from, the more you cheapen your brand. And let's be honest, Porky is on Clubhouse every day, and all night. Usually next to sidekicks, like Bacon Greasebeast. That alone speaks volumes about how far his brand has fallen. Can you name any other so-called celebrity who sits on Clubhouse around the clock? What other entertainment manager do you see more than the artists they claim to represent? So this video is just a reminder of how Wiretap Whack, the lie rat, has been moving for years. This is exactly why we know that Porky is, and always has been, CS2back.
Seen DJ Khaled taking pictures with Big U. I knew what that was. That was the old LA shuffle, the old LA squeeze. Okay. Did he talk about Fats? Oh, Fats put Big U on his pockets. Damn. Big U tried to take off on Nip, and Fats took off on Big U and set him on his pockets. In front of everybody. A week later, Fats was out of here. Every last one of these motherfuckers made up their own rules when they wanted to. They sick the police on their enemies. They sick the police on their enemies. They sick the police on their enemies. This is crazy out there. It's real shit.
We only talked about you a little bit.
Right. Now, unless he want to talk about how he lined his son up to get killed for the insurance money.
See, what is
we
that?
Ain't talking. We can talk about it. We ain't talking about it. How he got some responsibility in getting, old boy killed that they love up there in the Bay. These niggas roll blunts with their kids and pop perks with their kids because they think it's cool.
Why do you think he gave his son lean?
It ain't about thinking, it's about what we know.
How do you know that?
Did he collect the life insurance?
I don't know. Do you know?
Well, that's a fact.
Even if that was true, don't you think
that's a fact.
It's kind of ugly to be bringing that to the table.
Yeah, that ain't the... He got the other man smoked. They sick the police on their enemies. They sick the police on their enemies. So he told you, he tried to get you to bring him up there and told you he was coming up there to check us.
Yeah, that was the first thing he was saying.
So where you know this is from? Where you know what Jay?
I know him from the shop, from the little weed shop. Yeah, we used to run a little weed warehouse.
I don't know this, bro.
Because that's how I know Rick. That's how I know Rick Rock too. Because Rick Rock used to do the security at the warehouse, and I think that's how Rick Rock know him too.
That's the spot that got hit.
Yep.
For like the 40.
Yep. Yeah, that was one of my spots. Yeah, so Rock, he was security for Jay Reed to come over. That's how we all know each other. But I don't that nigga, man.
Yeah, well, wait, that was your spot?
Yeah, that was one of them, yeah.
You know Jay Reed lined that spot up. Why you think I know it got hit for 40?
Oh, shit.
Let me see if you can guess who he had do it.
Rick Ross.
They sick the police on their enemy. They sick the police on their enemy. Lying under a fake name.
How did you originally get into it?
He lined that girl up and had her killed.
Yeah, hold on, White. I want to hear this, though. Hey, gang,
I said why he got that lady killed in his penitentiary picture lined up.
This is an informant.
They sick the police on their enemy. They sick the police on their enemy. Gilly and his two sons come to the roller 60s all day with his direction from Big U, and he ain't put together why somebody over there would tell him and his two kids to take everything off. They sick the police on their enemy. They sick the police on their enemy. After the murder, when Quando went back to Georgia, what did he immediately do? Dropped his flag? There it goes. What was he claiming? Roll 60 script. Where Brick Baby from? Roll 60 script. What you think the police told Quando? That the Roll 60s set him up? Who you think he checked in with? Roll 60s? With who?
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
I'm
not going to say
listen,
it. Yeah.
Listen.
I'm not going to say it.
No, listen. They sick the police on their enemy. They sick the police on their enemy.
Hey, sir. Are you the manager?
I don't understand, like, she just broke all the windows out of her other spot. She just broke all the windows out of her other spot.
Why are you lying?
Okay, here go the address. Y'all can pull it up. Was you not arrested? Here goes the address.
I was not arrested.
Look, my editors, we shooting a thing here for 3 weeks. They've been here for 3-4 weeks. She don't even know the code of that door. Tell her to walk out the door. Of course we changed it, right? That's what you do.
How did I get in my house? I didn't break in, right?
How was this your home? I paid $1.4 million for this house. I paid $1.4 million for this house. I paid $1.4 million for this house.
I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm not trying to argue with you.
Didn't I just talk to you the other day and tell you not to come to my home?
You did not know.
I didn't talk to you the other day?
No, you threatened.
I threatened you?
No, we're not doing that.
You wasn't on the phone with me and I said, do not
doing that. We're not doing that, bro. We're not doing that, bro.
I manage all the homes. I manage all the homes. I manage all the homes.
I'm sorry, y'all, but I just had to point this out. This guy Porky just said he paid $1.4 million for that house, making him the homeowner. Not even 60 seconds later, Porky stopped being the owner and became the manager of the home. So Porky paid $1.4 million to be a house manager. You can't make this shit up.
My artist is on the way. Does she know that? But I do all the financing, I manage, I pay all the bills. What's up with you though? You really going for this?
She's my manager for her.
It's fine, that doesn't mean anything.
She's supposed to be here? Let's be real. Has she been in the money?
Speak up, Jay.
She doesn't live here. She doesn't live here. She doesn't live here. Yo, he on the way.
No,
she lives here, bro.
Don't ask her. Aren't you supposed to be her manager? Why are you?
She's not my manager, bro. She's my road manager.
Why are you?
The nigga Jonathan you're talking about, your artist, is my manager.
No.
Hey, can I talk to you first?
We don't deal with her no more. We don't deal with her no more. We don't deal with her no more. Future old Trick some money. So me, Trick and Big U was real close at the time. Me and Big U on a red-eye flight to Atlanta. We coming to LAX. We coming through the security, putting our bag through the thing. Who we see on the other side? Future and the girl that's with the football player. Also, Suge Knight goes over there to the studio for no reason. Does some BS. Rodney gave him some beats. Actually sold him some beats. He was getting $100,000 a beat. He gave him 3 beats from Miss LA for $150,000, 50 apiece. He said, if you're gonna buy 3, I'm gonna look out for you. Suge waits a few months. I need my money back. I'm just gonna keep this one. Well, that's $100,000. Or you can send them all back. Keep them all 3 for 50 apiece, or whatever you keep, it's 100 each. I want my money back. Okay, great. Suge sends somebody over there, a representative, somebody you know that I won't say their name because that's your friend. to pick up the money. Waits 3 days. Hey, what's up, homie? Where you at? Bring me my money. You sent your guy. I ain't sent nobody. What you talking about? What do you mean? The guy came by, said, I'm here to pick up the money for the 3 beats, touch. Right? I gave it to him.
Salute.
He from the other side. I'm this, I'm not, I'm this. Listen, shit, I'm not gonna play the games. I got my beats back. I gave the money to him. That's it. So the double whammy's going on. He chased Rodney around, called Rodney at the studio, came in there, collared Rodney up, roughed him up, did a few things. I get a call. Yo, Wack, what's up? Yo, you heard what happened? No, he tells me. He said, tell him I'm a God-fearing, tax-paying citizen. And I know he got homies, but I got homies too. Called the FBI. If he come playing with me again, I'm calling my big homies. And I always took note of that. Y'all remember? Kanye West party. Benjamin? Uh-oh. Bust on him. On Pyro, Jimmy told that nigga on this phone number, on the 3-way, hey, keep playing. I sent you a message already and got you shot in the ass. You keep playing, I'ma have 5,000, raise that barrel up a few more feet. Trying to do. You want to call me up? Let's run this. Exclusive. Since let's run this. Last week, I get a call from her. She say, Big U is trying to put a murder on loose cannon. I said, what? Yeah, the murder on Money Mike from 6-0. I said, I ain't got nothing to do with loose cannon. Right? They say it's a video out and he needed it for the attorney. I ain't thinking. I make a few phone calls. The video been floating. I get it to her. I wait 3 days. I say, did they charge him with the murder?
Wack, all due respect, you should listen to the video yourself, dog.
Flat.
You need to listen to it yourself, dog.
I ain't listening. If she called me, this what it is. Look, Kaz Rule says she called me, that's what I'm riding with. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You know what this is from? This is from you ever seen me let somebody go at me this much? Okay, so now I'm doing what I'm doing. And it's gonna be. However it's gonna be. And whatever else they want it to be and keep rolling, we can keep rolling. So here we go. You right back. So then I sit back and I asked, I said, did they charge Luce with the what you mean? You told me that Big U put a on him about Money Night. Right? You asked for the video that been floating around. I made some calls and got it to show it ain't him. Right? 2 days after that, guess what I started hearing? They're gonna let him out.
Operation Love Boys.
Did you see?
That's nasty work. Hey, salute to Scandalous Los Angeles TV. So, look, man, we appreciate y'all coming through. We only gave y'all about an hour and a half. I'm tired. I gotta eat. Maria home. You know what I'm saying? We didn't get no super chats and nothing else in the video as of right now. Has not been uploaded. I'm gonna refresh one more time because he could be premiering that motherfucker any minute. But on that note, man, salute to everybody. Hit that like button if you ain't already did it. We up out of here till tomorrow. Tap in, turn on those notifications. Hopefully he already has the video monetized and y'all have seen it. If not, come see it again if you have tomorrow when we go over. Deuce, when you was hitting him with facts last year, he started joning on your family. He didn't want to hear the audio until you said bet. Humpty Dumpty was scared. Yeah, oh yeah, he definitely gonna be Spooky Johnson. But we out, man. Damu Kiwe cameras.